Dress watches are back in vogue in 2025, but trying to identify the right dress watch to add to your collection can be an incredibly intimidating process. So today what we've decided to do is demystify the dress watch. We have a range of timepieces from $2,000 to $200,000. And I think each of these pieces has something to share about what makes a dress watch a successful piece in your collection. Hopefully, by looking at these pieces, you'll gain a sense of what's best for your wrist and what you might want to add to your collection. Let's get started. Okay, I've sorted these pieces into a variety of different categories based on different types of dress watches and different types of things you might like. But we're going to start at the very affordable end of the spectrum with a piece from a brand that today has turned into a fashion brand, but once was known for incredibly well-built timepieces. This is a Movado, and it costs only $2,000. At just 34 millimeters in diameter, this Movado has many of the details that we see on incredibly expensive timepieces. It's got a precious metal case, beautiful Dauphine handset, subsidiary seconds at 6 o'clock, and applied gold numerals. With dress watches, simpler is better, and that's a theme that you're going to see as we gravitate all the way up the pricing spectrum, and I think that Movado really hits it out of the park with that. They've kept all the elements that you'd want to see on a dress watch, but nothing else. If you want something that captures the 1950s essence of an elegant dress watch, I think that that's what this piece does so well. Moving up, not based on price point, but based on category, I decided to place next to this Movado another simple watch. And I think it's a watch that, in many respects, watches like the Movado are based on, and that's a Calatrava. The reference 570, this particular example, dates to the 1960s, but it was actually a significant piece for its time and also was quite large when it was released. Again, this is a 1960s watch, and yet it measures a substantial 35 millimeters. Now, 35 millimeters isn't exactly a huge watch by modern standards, but in the 60s, this was a watch that had a lot of presence. And this particular piece is executed in white gold, which is not a particularly common configuration. This also has a central seconds hand, another thing that was not necessarily super common in its era. So what you have was a watch that I think was far ahead of its time and remains incredibly salient in modern context. If you're looking for an ideal dress watch from a significant master of dress watch production, Patek Philippe, I think that it's hard to beat this piece. And this watch is priced closer to $40,000. So substantially more money than the Movado, but you'll see those same ingredients that we love on classic dress watches. A simple Bauhaus-inspired design language with faceted indexes, Dauphine hands, central seconds, a simple dial, legible and beautiful. Our next piece is another Patek Philippe. This is a reference 3644G. And the reason I've selected this watch is I think it moves along this same continuum of time-only dress watches, but this time adding a little bit more flash. And the way that it does this is in an incredibly tasteful way. First of all, its shape. This is part of the broader ellipse style category for Patek Philippe, an exciting case shape that's almost of a TV styling. This piece also is outfitted with a striking blue dial and matching blue strap. Patek Philippe has mastered the dress watch, and I think that if you want something that's not exactly going to be seen on other people's wrists, going vintage is the way to go with this 70s piece. Okay, moving on from Patek Philippe, I've selected two Cartier watches. Cartier obviously is known for getting designs right on dress watches, and I think that they have some of the classiest pieces that men and women can share. And so the first piece that we've chosen is one of the iconic designs from Cartier. It is the Tank Louis, the most recognizable and iconic of the Cartier tank family. It's characterized by these rounded brancards and an incredibly simple dial with Roman numerals, a railroad minute track, and beautiful blued steel hands, topped off with a blue sapphire cabochon crown. Manually wound, thin, and elegant, this watch looks great on men and women alike. And I think that if you're looking for one of the most iconic and tasteful rectangular watch designs, the Cartier Tank Louis is probably the standout. If you want something perhaps a little bit more interesting, we also have a Cartier Tonneau here. This piece falls just north of $10,000, and I think you're getting a lot of exciting design with this piece. Again, we have that Tonneau-shaped case that the watch is named for. You also have beautiful finishes like a guilloche dial and Breguet hands details that you see on incredibly expensive watches that add just a little bit of detailing to the design. The Tonneau has a slightly scalloped case back, similar to what you'd find on a Cartier Tank Cintre. And this is a watch that looks excellent on a wide variety of wrist types. It has a lot of presence, but it's quite small in proportion. Now we're moving away from time-only watches into something with a little more complication. This is the Lange 1. We've also done a full video talking about the Lange 1 and its history and significance in a modern context, and if you want to get even more information or go down the rabbit hole in the Lange 1, I'll link to that above. But the Lange 1, in short, is one of the most striking and recognizable designs in the world of high horology watchmaking. The Lange 1 is unique because of its incredibly striking dial, which has an outsized date, one of Lange's most characteristic contributions to the world of watches. Also a large display on the left side of the dial, subsidiary seconds down at around 5 o'clock, and a power reserve at 3 o'clock. This is an asymmetrical dial that feels incredibly balanced, and that's thanks to Lange's use of the golden ratio and this beautiful triangle layout to place the complications on the dial in a tasteful and elegant way. Beautiful watch, gorgeous movement, manually wound again. Hard to beat this level of finish. That's a beautiful piece. Next up, we're going to a maker that in a modern context is typically not associated with dress watches, but I think that this piece is an excellent value also. This is from Audemars Piguet, and for well under $10,000, you can own an Audemars Piguet, which is something that not a lot of people recognize. This stainless steel piece has a octagonal design, but it's not a royal oak. And I think that that's quite cool. You also get an integrated bracelet. It's not an incredibly common detail today because it's quite expensive to make by hand, but what you get is an incredible bang for your buck. This is an automatic piece, so it would lend itself incredibly well to everyday wear. And if you like a little bit more shape, sort of like the Patek that we mentioned earlier, I think that this Audemars Piguet really is a standout. Moving along and continuing with the integrated bracelet style, our next piece is a Piaget. These pieces live in the happy medium of high quality watchmaking and also exceptional jewelry executions. And this piece is a case study in what that means. But this white gold piece has a stunning bracelet. This is something that you physically would not be able to do nearly in the same price point. Again, this is a sub $10,000 white gold dress watch. That's not something that you would see sub $10,000 on a leather strap in a modern context. And to even add more to this sophistication of this particular design, this piece has a Lapis Lazuli dial. So if you love stones, I think that this watch has so much elegance, and I think it suits men and women alike. These pieces are having a complete moment in the spotlight, and I think it's going to continue as we started to see more and more red carpet exhibitions of these types of vintage retro pieces. Let's say that you like a little bit more sophistication in terms of what your dial presents, more than just the time and date. That's when you start to look at the last three pieces that I've selected. The first is from Breguet. Breguet is another one of the classic makers of dress watches, and the reason is that they get classic details done incredibly well. This piece is a Classique, just north of $10,000. This watch gives you so much in the way of finishing. You have a gorgeous guilloche dial with so much texture. And this particular piece has beautiful wire lugs, slightly more modest proportions, but those wire lugs give the watch a broad presence on the wrist. And again, you have a striking array of complications. This particular piece has a power reserve, a Moonphase, and a date at the bottom. And then you get the classic time display with Roman numerals and a lovely contrasting set of multi-tone finishes, both a chapter ring displaying the hours and minutes with a sort of dot track on the outbound of the dial. A lot going on this piece, but it doesn't look cluttered. It looks really tasteful. I think that Breguet punches far above their weight, especially pre-owned. You can get so much watch for the money, and I think this is an excellent example. Our next piece is an annual calendar from Patek Philippe. This is a reference 5146 in white gold. Patek Philippe, as we mentioned before, has mastered the dress watch, and I think that they really start to differentiate themselves when you get into the world of complications. The annual calendar complication strikes a happy medium between simple date-only watches and perpetual calendars. Automatic winding, elegant, takes a lot of those details we've seen before and graduates it up into a more complicated package. This is an excellent everyday dress watch, and I think someone looking to get into the world of complicated watchmaking cannot go wrong with the reference 5205, 5146, 5035, etc. And finally, this is a watch that exists at the very top of the dress watch market. It's the watch I'm currently wearing. The Patek Philippe Reference 5970. We've discussed this in depth in past. I'll link that above as well. The 5970 is a perpetual calendar chronograph. And this makes for one of the most stunning movements on the case back. And also, the proportions of this particular piece were just bang on. This was released in 2004, and it bridges both modern and vintage. It's not overpowering, it's not overimposing, but it fits somewhere in that happy medium where when you look at the watch, you just say, this piece was done right. And it's not many watches that you really have that effect when you look at them on the wrist, where there's literally nothing you'd want to change. But that's the case with this particular Patek Philippe. It also has an absolutely beautiful movement. Based on the Lemania 2310, this was the very last Lemania-based perpetual calendar chronograph before Patek Philippe shifted over to the Reference 5270, which flaunted Patek Philippe's new in-house caliber. I personally prefer the 5970. I think it's one of Patek Philippe's best watches ever made, and I think that if you're looking for the very best in the world of dress watches, it's hard to beat a piece of complicated watchmaking by Patek Philippe. So what's the right dress watch for you? Are you looking for a simple time-only watch? Are you looking for something classic with more shape, like a rectangular Cartier tank or this octagonal Audemars Piguet? Do you want something a little bit more jewelry forward, executed in white gold with a Lapis Lazuli dial? Are you looking for complications? There's lots of questions you could be asking when you consider what the right dress watch is for you, and we'd like to hear in the comments below what you typically gravitate towards. Which of these pieces was your favorite? No matter what you choose, you can't go wrong because dress watches as a category represent some of the most beautiful and timeless pieces of watchmaking that our wonderful industry has to offer. We'll see you next time.